All right, hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you guys are doing great. What's today? Today's Thursday, I believe. I believe it's Thursday. Is it Thursday? Yeah, man, time's flying by. But nonetheless, thank you again for coming in to watch this video. We're going to take a look at, obviously, Cleanspark production update. We're going to also take a look at Terawulf production update as well. Not a lot of information in there. I was hoping maybe for a little bit more information, especially from Cleanspark regarding their growth and buying infrastructure and things like that. We didn't get much there. We'll also take a look at Stronghold, looking to be bought out potentially, right? So that's kind of interesting there as well. What else will we take a look at? Basically, the Bitcoin miners, where they were today, Bitcoin, and then we'll take a look at like hash price, Bitcoin network hash rate, other things as well. But we'll get into all that here. But as always, you guys know the drill here, and I'm going to kind of shorten this format up a little bit here. You guys have seen this obviously a million times already, so I'm not going to really go over it. If you enjoy this type of content, obviously hit the like button, subscribe. It helps me out tremendously, and all of my disclosures are right there on the screen for you guys to read. You can pause it and read it all over it. But those are all my disclosures there for full transparency. And let's take a look at what's going on here with the Bitcoin network, things like that, and we'll get into the other stories as well. So looking at here, we got the Bitcoin fees per day, right? We're seeing that those have been kind of obviously a lot less lackluster than we have seen after the halving event, right after the halving event. They've been coming back down to more normal ranges where we kind of were thinking things we're going to be at anyways. But right now we're getting about, what is that, fees per day, about 35 BTC per day compared to where we were getting a peak, 853 BTC, right? Definitely a huge shock there a little bit on it. But that was kind of to be expected. That's going to cool off here. If we look at the, right now, the total hash rate of the network here, on Bitcoin, we can see here on the 7-day, it's been coming down here. We're at 600 exahash right now on it. If we look at the 30-day average, we can see that it's still relatively high here. It's still at 623 exahash right now. We'll see if obviously when we look at here, next is going to be obviously hash price. We can see hash price is still kind of low, obviously around 45, obviously half of what it was pre-halving, a little bit less than half. That's because Bitcoin price has been coming down, so that hash price has been coming down, and that obviously affects the miners as far as profitability, things like that. And if that happens to continue going forward, we might start seeing some older machines getting unplugged, some miners that have higher electrical costs and things like that maybe getting unplugged as well at that point. So that will be possibly good for some miners that are looking to buy infrastructure, right? Like Cleanspark, others as well. But we'll have to see obviously what happens there. But just wanted to kind of take a look at those three things every day now going forward, because those are important to see how they are progressing as well, because it impacts the miners quite tremendously actually. Okay. Now, as far as Bitcoin today, Bitcoin actually didn't do so bad today. It was actually in the green today. Closed up 1.38%. It closed at 59,070. It did go below our support line here at 57,500 roughly. Went a little bit below it, but it bounced back up above it, which is good. It closed above it again. So we had basically 2 days in the where we closed above that. We are trending up a little bit here in the upside here, a little bit here. Right? I mean, Bitcoin's down about 20 from the bottom here, from the top to the bottom. If we go here to here roughly, we're down about 23%, right? So those are normal corrections in Bitcoin, between 25, maybe even 30% corrections like that. So this might be the bottom for us here. We won't know it until a couple of days, couple of weeks out going forward, and see if that actually holds true, right? If we continue to battle with this 57,500 mark here, which is our support, like we had before here, right? We were battling with it, we were testing it, and each time we were testing it, I said before that the more times we test it, the more likelihood there is of us breaching below it, and obviously it happened here. So we'll keep an eye on it, see what happens going forward, but obviously a green day is a green day nonetheless, and the miners obviously had a green day as well. For the most part, Digihost, for some reason, for whatever reason, that one had a really good day. It was up over 22% here on the day. There was no news that I could find anything on them as far as anything as far as growth is concerned, or any other news stories for them that would trigger such a huge rally. The only thing I can think of is low share count. Low share count can be easily manipulated. That's kind of what I'm thinking here. Maybe what happened here, they were maybe just manipulated here a little bit on that one, because nobody else was in even the double digits percentage-wise except for them. Okay, and that is it for the miners here. So overall, good day. A couple miners that were in the red still. Amy, Hive, and Mawson were in the red. Everybody else was in the green here. Okay, so that's it. Now going into our first story here, which is going to be obviously on Stronghold. So Stronghold announces their first quarter 2024 operation and financial results. And here was an interesting little tidbit, which we're going to cover here. I'm not going to get into their quarterly results here. We'll do that maybe later on in the month when all of these smaller miners report. We'll maybe do just a quick dive into all of those guys at that point. But as you guys know, I've kind of moved some of the smaller miners into the smaller miners category, and we're more concentrating on the miners that are actually growing quite tremendously in their hash rate going forward into this year and next year. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing here. But here's the interesting part of it here. So strategic alternatives. Stronghold and its board of directors have initiated a formal strategic review process with the assistance of outside financial and legal advisors. The company is considering a wide range of alternatives to maximize shareholder value, including but not limited to the sale of all or part of the company or another strategic transaction involving some or all of the assets of the company. Right? So that's obviously leading me to believe that they obviously see kind of the writing on the wall that their operations, they're valued right now at, if you look at Stronghold, they're valued at, 40 some odd million right now? I believe that's the case here if we look at it. Yeah, 49.19 million, right? Very, very low valuation on them. They have more assets than they do on their market cap. So they're definitely way undervalued from that standpoint, but they obviously have issues with expenses, things like that, that they would need to get under control here. And I was just kind of curious to see if, and I put a poll up here for you guys as well, is somebody going to buy out Stronghold? Right now, it's 64% of you guys are saying that somebody might buy them out. But when you're buying them out, you're also buying out the debt that they have here, right? We'll get into that here in a little bit. But here's kind of the thing that I thought was kind of interesting here. Unlike most of the other Bitcoin miners, we own over 750 acres of land with expansive access to water and fiber. We own the transmission lines that connect to our assets to the attractive PJM grid. And our two wholly owned merchant power plants have over 160 megawatts of net output capacity and significant carbon capture potential. We believe that our 130 megawatt of existing Bitcoin mining capacity could potentially be expanded to over 400 megawatts for either Bitcoin mining or advanced computing, such as that which is used for artificial intelligence and machine learning. Right. So 400 megawatts is obviously substantial. That would obviously help some miners that are looking for it, but would they be overpaying for this potentially? That's where I don't know. I would have to run the numbers on it to see when you actually look at all of their financial results down here. You can see that the assets, they got 7 million in assets right now, total current assets of 18 million, right? So you obviously include that. Going down here, total assets 166 million, right? So basically they're going to want at least what their current total assets are. Subtract that from the liabilities side of things as well. They have about 94 million in liabilities. You got to pay for those liabilities as well, right? So, you're looking to possibly spend around 200, maybe 200 plus million on buying them out potentially, being where they are valued right now at 50 million roughly. That's basically, 4x from where the market cap of this company is. So I don't know if anybody's going to really buy them out. There are companies that could do it, right? Marathon, Cleanspark, Riot, others could do it if they wanted to. IREN, Bitfarms, all of these guys possibly could do it. But it's just whether it makes sense for them to do it and what is the kind of like electrical cost of those facilities if you're not running the power plants, right? There's a lot of things that go into it. So it'd be interesting to see if anybody does actually go and buy them out potentially. So just wanted to point that out. So obviously I've talked about Stronghold in the past that in my opinion, they were a strong candidate to be bought out by somebody else or go under after the halving event. The other ones were Argo, Sphere 3D, and Mawson as well, right? Companies that haven't done really well in the last year or two, financially or growth-wise. Those were the ones that are going to be obviously in trouble potentially. Okay, so that is it for Stronghold. I just wanted to kind of cover that, and we may start seeing a little bit more of that, especially if Bitcoin price stays where it's at, the hash price stays where it's at, the network hash rate stays where it's at. All of those things obviously could contribute to more distressed assets potentially being out there, and then it might be pretty good pickings for some of the miners that are well capitalized right now. Okay, so something to be mindful of. Okay, next here, Cleanspark. So like I said, Cleanspark releases their April 2024 Bitcoin mining update. I was hoping they would provide at least something as far as, what are their plans going forward to buy and build out infrastructure to get to the 32 exahash by the end of the year. They didn't provide anything in here. Maybe they're waiting until obviously their quarterly results, which are going to be coming up here next week, I believe. They'll probably provide some details at that point, at least I'm thinking. But here's what we have from them. You guys can read this other stuff up here. There's not much in there as far as information, or a lot of the stuff is regurgitation of things that we've heard before anyways. But April Bitcoin mining update here. So they mined 721 Bitcoin in the month. Obviously a pretty good month still, considering that we had the halving event. The transaction fees helped out greatly here for a lot of these miners, including Cleanspark. Total Bitcoin holdings increased nicely to 5,739. Total Bitcoin sold in April was 2.88. Deployed fleet of 136,000 miners. Month-end fleet efficiency 24.2 joules per terahash, and current hash rate 17.3. So they did boost their hash rate. What was it? A little bit more than I think it was like 900 petahash or something like that. We'll take a look at the numbers when I pull up the spreadsheet here. But that's about it. They are obviously expanding their Dalton expansion here. Grading is in progress on that. They're going to be able to add another fleet of S21s in there, 50 megawatt facility, 0.8 exahash included in that after the expansion is complete. So they are working on those things that would get them closer to 20 exahash by the end of the first half, which is what their goal is. So we'll see if they can reach that. Okay, that's about it. Upcoming events here. That's about it. Right, let me see here. May 9th is when they're doing their financial results for second quarter of 2024 for them. Okay. Cleanspark here. 225 million shares outstanding right now. Stock price is $15.94. Market cap $3.6 billion roughly in change. You can see the performance of the last 12 weeks has been actually pretty good, especially going back 12 weeks. Up 136% from 12 weeks ago, up 37% from 8 weeks ago, and then they're up 10% from 4 weeks ago, and they were up 11% from last week alone itself. Okay, so overall pretty good progress here compared to some of the other miners. Current hash rate 17.3 exahash. Future hash rate about 50, right? They got 6 exahash, which I think they're going to be swapping out older machines, things like that. So it's going to be used for that. So it's really, I think 50 exahash is what their goal is. Their BTC hodl right now is 5,739. That's valued at about 378 million. That's only 10% of their market cap right now, which is pretty good rating there. And then you can see their BTC mined production. Their best month was in March, 806 Bitcoin here. They're down to 721, which is basically their second best month here so far. And that did decrease a little bit here by about 85 BTC from the prior month. Okay. Monthly revenue, best month was in March, 54.57 million. And then April, 47.5 million. Still not too bad. BTC hodl, nice continued growth here. They've done the right thing, I think. Based on my knowledge and experience, I think hodling into the halving event and then obviously into past the halving event a little bit as well as Bitcoin price starts to go up. We'll see if they actually sell, because that's kind of what I would like to see them do. And if they do that, I think that'd be really good for shareholders at that point, because they're definitely going to be making a lot more on that revenue side of things. And they can use that to obviously grow into the bear market when it does happen eventually, potentially. Right, so in the next 12 to 18 months, I'd like to see them obviously sell that. I don't want them hodling through the bull run and then sell at the bear market. That's kind of the plan. Hash rate growth here, you can see at 17.3. They were at 16.4. So yeah, they installed about, 876 petahash here in a month, which is still pretty good here for April. BTC sold, you can see here that they've been barely selling anything. They've been obviously using the ATM to do that, to allow them to do that. And then BTC per exahash efficiency is at 41.7 here. That's pretty good here for the month. What else do we have here? Bitcoin sold value, what they sold, and that's about it. Going down here, we can look at institutions and analyst ratings. That did increase to 290 from 266. Shares did increase to 95.12 million from 93.2 million. Percentage increase to 42.7 as well. And then we still have the 2 strong buy ratings, 3 buy ratings, 1 hold ratings, 0 underperform, 0 sells. Price targets for the high stayed the same at 30. Average went up to 25, and the low went up to $20. Right. So based on the analyst estimates, they're definitely undervalued here. We'll get into my numbers here in a second on it. Going down here, what did we install here this month here, and what do we have them running at? So for April, I installed these 140 terahash miners here, and I think that was it basically that I installed right now. Yep, that got us to the 17.3 exahash, and here I did have to add about was it 5.8 million in Bitcoin transaction fees to it to make the numbers work, right? And that's kind of the way things worked out for us on it. Yeah, that got us to the 47.5 million, which is based on the average Bitcoin price for April. And that's kind of what we got here based on 721 BTC being mined. Okay, so that all works out there. Now, looking at the numbers here, if you look at the current quarter they're in, which is estimated number for them, 99.8 million, and then the last 3 quarters, which has Q1 numbers for them, which is an estimate, and the prior 2 quarters to that are actual numbers. We're looking at least I'm looking at them being between $14.98 to $22.47. They're at $15.94. I think they're on the low end still, based on their future growth going forward, right? So I think they're slightly fairly valued to, you could say they're kind of undervalued too, in a way, right? But that's basically it for Cleanspark, right? Nice to see that they're continuing to increase their hash rate by almost 1 exahash here in the past month. They're at 17.3, so that means they still need to install 2.7 exahash basically in May and in June to get to 20 exahash by the end of the first half. All right. So that is it on Cleanspark. Let me know what you guys think here in the comments, obviously, and then we'll get into Q&A at the end as well. But next one here is going to be on Terawulf. Terawulf is going to be pretty short and sweet as well. Terawulf announces April 2024 production update and operations update. Here's what we have. They're at 8 exahash of installed and operational self-mining capacity. This includes their JV that they're a part of as well. Okay. And then here's self-mined 348 Bitcoin in April with an average production rate of 11.6 Bitcoin per day. And that is also with their JV here. Right, we get the actual numbers down below. Power cost average at 16,000 roughly per Bitcoin self-mined, or approximately 3.8 cents per kilowatt hour, which is really low, which is really good. Which excludes the benefits of expected demand response or ancillary services proceeds. Remaining older generation miners at Lake Mariner were replaced with approximately 3,000 S19K Pro miners in April, bringing the Lake Mariner's total S19K Pro miner count to approximately 4.1 thousand on that. Okay. Bitcoin self-mined 269, Bitcoin self-mined through Nautilus, which is obviously the joint venture there. That's 79 there for them. And their average operating hash rate was 7.8. Let me see if there's anything else. There isn't much. They talk about the expectation to be at 10 exahash, right? Terawulf's capacity to approximately 10 exahash by mid-2024. And then they're working on, obviously, finalizing a design for large-scale high-performance computing, AI project at Lake Mariner site, and has committed an initial 2 megawatts of power block for it, for obviously for GPUs and things like that. They're working on that as well. Okay, so that's it for that one. Let's take a look at Terawulf here really quick. Going up here. Excuse me. I gotta take a sip of my water. Okay, shares outstanding for them is 302 million. Market cap is at 655 million right now. Performance for them has been actually pretty good here over the last 12 weeks, right? Up 45% from 12 weeks ago, up 12.3 from 8 weeks ago, from 4 weeks ago, they're up 38%, and then last week they're up 7.86%. So overall, pretty good. They don't hodl anything, so we don't have any hodl value for them. BTC self-mined, their best month was in March here, 290. They're down to 269, right? This is just for their self-mining at Lake Mariner. Does not include the JV at Nautilus. And that's kind of what we're tracking there. And the reason I do that is because that gets reported as revenue. The other stuff does not get reported as revenue. Okay. Self-mined revenue estimate was 19.63 million in March, 17.7 million here in April, which was also a really good month for them. So they're second best here. Hash rate combined, looks like their hash rate was pretty much just pretty much flat here. It looks like the last 2 months or so, based on what I'm seeing here. On the numbers here, BTC sold, they sell everything they mine. Bitcoin per exahash efficiency, really good, 43.48. And I think there's a reason for it. I think they got maybe a little bit more of the higher end Bitcoin transaction fees, especially after the halving event, because I had to increase their transaction fees dollar figure for them in order to make the numbers work. Bitcoin sold value, obviously what they sold here, they sold all their coins here. Going down here, we can see institutions did increase here to 163, which is nice. Shares also increased nicely to 69.7 million from 65.8. Percentage went up to 23.14 from 21.86. We still have one strong buy rating, 5 buy ratings, so we have one more buy rating here than we did prior. And then price targets actually went up a little bit here as well to $4.20 for the high. The average went up to 362, or actually went down to 362, and the low stayed at the same at $3 here. Okay, going down here at their numbers. The red indicated numbers here are for the JV. Okay, so that's the way I'm kind of keeping track of it all. And then in April, they stated they installed some more of those S19 Pros. So I installed the rest of those that they had here. And I did get rid of some of the older miners here, the 100 terahash miners here as well, up here, and brought them down. So took out the difference basically, right, on those. So they are running on more efficient miners, which is good. And then that put us up down here. I did give them 4.12 million in transaction fees for the month of April. And their overall revenue here was 22.9 million, right? If we look at the total BTC that they got for the JV and everything else was 22.9 million. If I took that 22.927 times the 0.1 0.1221. It was only 2.8 million in transaction fees for them on average, right? And that's based on what we saw transaction fees daily. I did the average on it, and maybe, I mean, it's possible that they could have gotten obviously more in transaction fees, depending on the blocks they got through the pool that they're mining with, or it could have been that the pool that they were mining with also got the next coin or next block after the halving event, which was like 40 some odd Bitcoin in there, right? And maybe that was split between them and the other miners that are on there potentially. I don't know how that happened, but in order for the numbers to work here, I had to add basically double their transaction fees like I have done for some other miners. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. Could be wrong on it, but everything else is in here the way it should be. So I'm not sure why it's obviously coming up that way. I'm looking at April numbers here for everything. So everything else is the same for everybody on it. Okay. But that's kind of what we're looking at here. Here are their JV, 25% of it is 1.9 exahash. And then the self-mining BTC here, 269, which is pretty much right on cue is what they reported as well. 269, yeah. So that all works out based on the numbers there. Okay. So that's what we got for them. I'm going over here to where they are right now. Based on the current quarter that we're in, right, which is an estimated number, plus the prior quarter, which we're still waiting on results for them, and then the last prior 2 quarters of that, actual numbers, I have in between $3.95 to $5.93. They're at $2.17. They are undervalued right now, right? They do have obviously debt that they are paying for, or paying that down. If we look at the current liabilities for them, that has been coming down. And let's see here, assets, liabilities, current liabilities, right? It has been coming down. I think they're down to like 70 million right now. They paid quite a bit of it down, which is good to see. And it's something that we wanted to see, obviously, because that was obviously a concern going forward if they were going to be able to pay that off, especially since they need to pay that off by the end of this year, or they would have to probably refinance it or something like that for another 3 to 5 years if they weren't able to pay it off. But now that they're down to like 70 some odd million, I think that's definitely more feasible for them to pay it off going forward. Okay. So that is it for Terawulf. And then let's get into the Q&A side of things. See if you guys have any questions, and I'll give you guys some thoughts on some things as well. So I'll let you guys start popping in some questions in here. This is a little bit delayed here by about 15 seconds or so, 15, 20 seconds. And also why the change. Maybe, I don't know if you guys noticed it or not, but I did a live stream yesterday. I did a live stream today now also. And the reason for that is just I'm trying to save time. And I was doing this a couple months back. I think I did it where I was doing pretty much a live stream every single time that I would normally do a video. And that was just to save time. But I noticed that the income side of things for YouTube at that point was dropping at that. It didn't drop too much. So I'm thinking, why make it harder on myself and waste more time recording a video, transloading a video, uploading the video, then also doing like a live chat with you guys anyways. So I'm spending that time anyways, when I could shorten that down by about half, right? So instead of taking me 2 hours, 2.5 maybe hours or something like that to do all that, I could cut that down to about an hour. I'm saving an hour at night. That's huge, right? Time is something that we never get back. So if I lose a little bit of income from it because I'm doing these live streams, so be it. But this way I get to also interact with you guys in the Q&A side of things, and it's just going to be more time for me also. So I'm benefiting, and I think you guys are going to be benefiting from it as well. And, you know, income drops a little bit, so be it. Not a big deal. But that's kind of where I'm at with all that stuff. So let's get into the Q&A side of things, and then we'll see what happens after that. So we'll try to keep this not too long. We'll try to keep it down to, let's see, we started at 8:15. It's 8:38 right now, so we'll try to get this done by in the next 20 minutes or so. If we get done through it faster, even better. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Zach Cleanspark keeps referencing merger acquisitions opportunities. I'm expecting to hear news on their quarterly update May 9th. Do you have any opinion, possible scenario? Keep up the great work. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, they got to buy something, right? They either have to buy greenfields, which that's going to take time to obviously develop, so that's not going to be beneficial to them to reach their goal of 32 exahash by the end of this year. So basically, they need to buy infrastructure. They need to buy somebody's warehouse, basically, or I call them glorified sheds for mining, right? They're just these huge hangars for the miners to sit in and running those things. So they need to buy those. They need to find ones that they can actually increase the megawatts there. So if they're buying like a 20 megawatt site, can they increase that to at least 40 or 50 or maybe 100 megawatts, right? Is that potential there? And they're working on that. And I think Zach and Matt have stated both that they have like at any given time, like a dozen or 2 dozen of companies that they're kind of reviewing on each week or something like that. So I do think they have it out there. It's just a matter of when they actually kind of go ahead and buy them potentially, right? After they do their due diligence and all that stuff. Plus, it also depends on the price, I think. So I think we'll get something. I just hope it was obviously sooner than later, like all you guys here. Let's see here. Stronghold has similar market cap and share count as Mawson. Are there any signs that Stronghold stock is being manipulated like Mawson? We saw that earlier on. Like last year, we saw that more so than we are seeing it right now. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing that with some of the smaller miners that have low share count, right? 20 million, 30 million, 40 million shares or something like that. Those are much easier to manipulate than it is to somebody that has 200 million shares or 100 million shares even. So we have been seeing that in the past, but I haven't been really seeing it recently. At least I don't believe I have. I'll have to double check on that, but I don't think it's that bad this recently here. Question, what do you do if you held SDIG stock now that they are on sale? Well, they're not on sale yet, right? They're looking into it through their advisors and lawyers and everything else. They're basically putting out the feelers out there. What is the potential of somebody possibly buying them out? What does that mean on the stock? I mean, if somebody buys them out for premium, stock is valued at roughly 50 million right now or so. If somebody buys them out, I don't know how that's going to work. I'd have to look into the numbers, right? They do have some debt, obviously, so you got to take that into account as well. But yeah, I mean, you still could make at least maybe a 40% increase from where it's at right now, potentially. I don't know what you'd have to take a look at it. But if you're waiting on that to happen, it might not happen, right? So it's one of those things that you might be gambling on there if you're just waiting for it to basically get bought out. So you got to do your due diligence on it as well and figure out what's best for you. Does it make sense to hold on to them longer, or is it better to maybe take some losses, or if you're in the green, take some profits and get into a different miner? Or maybe, it just all depends on what they get offered. Let's see. BTFM sold all of their BTC. Are you talking about Bitfarms? BITF? Sold all of their BTC production. Still seems that the proceeds are not priced into the stock price. Is it undervalued, or do they finance their own growth operations with it? If you're talking about Bitfarms, I think they're trying to dilute as little as possible, potentially. That's kind of the sense I'm getting from them, because they have been selling a majority of the shares, or the majority of the BTC that they mine monthly. Right, they're putting back a little bit into the HODL, but not much. And that might be obviously to pay for operations and to potentially fund their growth as well. Right, because the stock price is down below $2 as it is, so it doesn't really make much sense to dilute if you don't have to. If you can do it this way, it might be better, obviously, for investors. But we've seen other companies do it when they were at these rates as well, and have done really well going forward. So it's one of those things that you have to kind of evaluate, I guess, per company. But yeah, I don't know. Let's see your question. All right, we got one. What would your opinion be if, let's say, Cleanspark bought Stronghold? Would you be more bearish or bullish towards them? Oh, I would have to have a really good reason for them to be buying Stronghold out at that point. Unless they actually see that they could actually get 400 megawatts in that facility, right, within a short period of time. We're talking about like within the next 9 months or so, actually 8 months. If they can do that, or maybe they don't even need that much. I mean, they're going to be at 20 exahash. I'd have to run the numbers as far as what they need to get to 32 exahash on the machines that they have. So if they need like 200, 300 megawatts or something like that, maybe it is 400 megawatts. And if they're going to scrub basically the power plants, they're going to run them or something like that, and they're just getting it to do that, well, that might make sense. And it depends what price they pay it at also, right? If they pay a huge premium on it, like 400 million or something like that, well, would they have been better off buying these smaller sites and everything else? So that would have to be looked at as well. Thank you for the super chat. You like WGMI? I do like WGMI. I do have it in my 401k as well, and that's actually done pretty well for me. I think BitQ has done a little bit better here recently, but we'll see how both of those do. I mean, they're both within like 10-15% of each other as far as performance is concerned, so not too far off. Thanks for the information, Seb. Why Cleanspark was struggling today to run upwards, whereas other miners were pretty much 5 to 6%. Also, what's the difference between proof of work versus proof of stake? Okay, so I think maybe Cleanspark was struggling today, maybe because they're playing still on the ATM, potentially, right? Others were going up, so when miners are going up, that's usually a good time for them to pull on the ATM because it's not going to really drop the price potentially that much. So maybe that was the case for it there. There's also obviously a fear with the ATMs thing out there, so that could be obviously affecting the stock as well. And the difference between proof of work is proof of work, you're having these ASIC machines or GPUs, whatever you're mining with. That's proof of work, right? You're spending electricity to do that. Proof of stake is you have a stack of coins that you're basically putting on as collateral into that staking pool. And at that point, you're able to make transactions or make off the transactions from those staked coins that you have on the protocol. I think that's the easiest way to explain it, kind of. Let's see. Also, if you had 3,000, on which miners would you allocate? Just your thought, nothing to us. Yeah, it's never financial advice. Right now, if I had only $3,000, man, that's tough. I still think that Bitfarms and IREN are probably one of the ones that are the most undervalued. And then you also have CORZ, which is possibly even more undervalued, right? But it's also more risky. So CORZ would be a high risk, potentially high reward scenario, whereas I think Bitfarms with their growth and IREN with their growth as well, they're not being valued properly right now. So maybe look into those as well. After that, I would look into Wolf Cypher a little bit as well. Who else? Yeah, I'll probably look at those guys here. I think like Marathon, Riot, Cleanspark can do very, very well going forward, but I don't know if we're going to see the bigger gains in them as far as percentage-wise going forward because they're already up so high from where they were at the bottom, right? Whereas some of these miners here like Iris and Bitfarms are still pretty close to where they were at the bottom. So there's nothing but upwards for them potentially, right? But they have to execute all those other things. They have to do all those things right. Let's see here. Okay. Bitfarms just installed 2,880 Bitmain T21 miners and 560 M30. What do you think their actual hash rate will be end of May? Yeah, I saw that. I think they just put out a tweet or post, I guess you could say, on X that they installed some more miners. So they're trying to get to 10 exahash, I believe. Is it 10 or 12? I'm trying to remember. I think they want to get to 12 exahash by the end of the first half. So we'll see. I'm hoping that they possibly get an additional 2 exahash or something like that, or close to that, at least in May, and then another 2 exahash plus in June potentially. I think that'd be fantastic, but we'll see. Long-term, short-term Bitfarms price predictions. I think from where they are right now, you're possibly looking at depending where Bitcoin price goes, right? So Bitcoin goes up to 150, 200,000. I think for Bitfarms at that point, you can definitely see at least an 8x to like a 10x, even potentially higher depending where Bitcoin goes at that point. So that's kind of the way I would look at it. Short-term, I mean, we could be coming down. Bitcoin comes down here in the next couple of days, couple of weeks. We could be going down even more. I'm actually looking to buy a little bit more later on this week. And then I'm going to be buying into some more IREN as well. I'm going to get into those as well while the prices are still relatively low. But that's kind of the way I would look at it. Who is the best candidate to buy SDIG for you? Oh, well, I mean, there's, if it wasn't, I mean, there's a reason why it's going on for sale, right? They're having issues, obviously. They got debt and everything else. So it's not something that a lot of miners are going to be looking to get into, maybe buy out the whole company. They might buy out a site or two or something like that they have. Well, they only have 2 sites anyways. So, but they might look into buying maybe one site or something like that from them instead of the whole company, where they don't want to deal with the debt and everything else. So it'll be interesting. I don't know who's going to want to buy them. I know that obviously Cleanspark is pretty picky on what they buy. I believe Marathon already has infrastructure that they can expand to get to the 50 exahash that they want to get to. Bitfarms already is pretty much settled in. Who else do we have here? I think a candidate might be somebody like that's private, that's wanting to get into the stock market potentially, right? Get a stock ticker. So we're looking at maybe companies like Swan, other private miners that are out there that I'm not even aware of that could be out there that have obviously good funds and everything else. And that way they can buy them out, maybe pay a little bit of a premium, but they're getting onto the market as well. And they can possibly grow that 2 sites to an additional 400 megawatts. So that's kind of the way I would look at it that way. Let's see. Hi, Seb. What is your price prediction in numbers for Mara end of 2024, end of 2025? I haven't run the numbers yet, but I think, if Bitcoin goes up, if they can execute, here's the thing. If they can execute and get to 50 exahash by the end of this year, that's going to be huge for them. The other part of that equation is if they can maintain their operational uptime closer to 100% each month, that would be huge for them. If they can do that, they're going probably, I would say $100 probably north, right, of that. Because at that point, they are just obviously a monster in the space, which they are currently right now, but their operations have, to be frank, sucked in the last 3 months. We'll see what their operations was like, obviously, in April. We'll see if there was any improvement in that. But we just need to see improvements in those types of things, and at that point, I think they'll do really well. Let's see. Let's see. Would you ever consider working full-time for a public Bitcoin miner if the opportunity arises? Oh, geez, I don't know. I don't know if I want to move my family and everything else. I'm kind of settled in where I'm at right now. I kind of like the way my life is. I don't know if I want to have the burden and everything else on top of it, right? It's just, it would be stressful, depending on what we'd be doing. I could see myself maybe going into working for like a hedge fund or something like that, or something where I can still possibly work from home and do the data analytics on all these miners and things like that. I could see that, but I'm getting too old to be running around operations side of things and everything else. I'm looking for a more cushy, easy thing, I guess you could say. But who knows? It would depend, I guess, on the opportunity. We'd have to see. Let's see. What are your thoughts on BTB in terms of stock price potential? So Bit Digital. Bit Digital, I think, is undervalued from where they are right now. They're not being valued on their AI, but I get why. It's because we don't know what the profit margins are on that side of business. If we knew that, I think they might get better valuation going forward. Also, their growth isn't that great. They're going to double their hash rate possibly this year from 3 exahash to 6 exahash, which is going to be a good growth for them, obviously, but it's not like jaw-dropping or anything like that. But the big thing is obviously the AI side of things. Based on that, I think investors are just cautious right now because they don't know what that's going to be like, right? They have a nice contract for $50 million per year right now for 3 years. But if they're only making $5-7 million on that a year, $50 million doesn't do much, right? So we need to see. Let's see. Sebastian, great video. Thank you. I love your content. What are your thoughts about sell in May and go away? Do you think that the market might have a longer cool off, or do you think BTC will continue a parabola? So if you look at prior cycles as well, we've seen that Bitcoin was kind of wishy-washy after having cycles for at least like a month or two, and then it started slowly going up at that point. And then we saw like really good runs in like the end of summer, right? Fall numbers, right? Where people are going back into investing mode instead of being in leisure mode over the summertime. So that's kind of what I'm expecting a little bit here. But depending on where you are with your pricing on the miners, if we get dips throughout this, in May, in June, July, or something like that, I'm looking to still end up buying more. I'm not going to be selling anytime soon because I can just buy these things at a much lower cost, and I know eventually, well, I don't know for sure, my best guess estimate and best guess research that I can have done on Bitcoin is that it's going to go up eventually, right? We just don't know exactly when. So that's kind of what I'm holding off until then at that point. Okay, I think we're all caught up with the numbers. Oh, I see one more popping in here. Or is that it? Let's see. Got that one. Yeah, I think we're done with questions here. So we'll call it a day. We're right on cue here. 8:54 or 8:55. I think we're doing pretty good today. So going forward, you guys will have access to obviously doing these kind of Q&As pretty much daily. So instead of doing the live streams on only Saturdays and Wednesdays, we'll do them pretty much every day, except for like Sundays, because I need a day off at least on that. But if we don't have any news or updates or anything like that, we won't do a live stream. If there's obviously something to talk about that's interesting, we'll do a live stream. But other than that, we'll do this going forward because I've just saved myself an hour now. I get to spend a little bit more time with my kids. So I'm a happy camper. I hope you guys are okay with it. And we'll call it a day. So I greatly appreciate you guys coming in to watch this video. As always, I gotta sell myself. I gotta do my little sales pitch. Patreon members get access to all the spreadsheets that I have, obviously with all the data. I mean, there's over 100,000 data points on all these guys here. That's $8 a month. If you pay for the annual subscription, that's $10 off, 10% off. And there might be some spots open at $5 and $4 as well. And you get access to Discord through all the tiers anyways. Okay, so that is it. Let me see. I see one more question popping up here. Hive seems undervalued too. Okay, that's not really a question. That is it. All right. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a late one. Tomorrow I'm going to be busy until probably 8, 9 o'clock or something like that. So we might do one, but it's going to be late, depending on who reports tomorrow. Okay. And otherwise, on Saturday, I'm doing Twitter Spaces with the BTC mining guy. That's happening at 12, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think it's somewhere around there. Okay, so that should be a lot of fun. We have quite a few management people from the mining companies coming on board as well, so that'll be a lot of fun. All right, but that's it. Hope you guys have a great night. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, bye.